Okay, welcome back to episode number 57. How is everybody doing?
Lockdown is over, right? Almost, kind of.
Seems,
Easy.
seems like it is. It
Until
seems like it.
second wave.
I'm seeing so many people go to house parties. I'm sure the rule says you can only have 6 people outdoor, 2 meters, but it doesn't feel like people are following the rules anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think government really cares. They want to kickstart the economy. Before it was health first, economy second. Now it's economy first, health second.
Yeah, exactly. P, how you doing, man? You're looking tired, man. Is the reality?
I'm good. I'm good.
Paternity leave was a long
I'm good. I just hope. I just took a power nap before this episode. It's much needed. So, but yeah, good. In terms of COVID being over, I'm not sure actually because I think I saw reports suggesting that Leicester, I think Leicester as a town, will be told to potentially go into their second lockdown because in fears of a second wave. So, let's see. I'm flying back to Basel start of August, so I hope there is no second wave.
P, you booked your flights?
Yeah, just yesterday.
Okay. Oh, cool. And did you get a return one or just straight single?
No, single.
One way,
baby, direct.
Olu, how you doing? I see you got a lot of that plant seems to be getting bigger every couple of weeks. I'm starting to. I don't know. Is that real or are you just buying a new fake plant every week?
Where's the children? That's what I want to know.
The way you look tired, I think they're a few years out. The way you look tired on the screen. No, I'm good. I can't complain.
So this week's episode 57, we talk about post-lockdown life. So what does that mean? I think we've all been looking at the news. People are starting to go to the beach more, enjoy the weather. But what does lockdown life look like now that it's pretty much over for us all? And we'll be talking about the personal aspect in terms of, are we changing the way that we socialize? Also thinking about travel. Are we as a group going on more holidays or less holidays now? And also with the family in some cases. And professionally, what does it look like for us now going back to work? Are we still continuing to work from home, or are we having to now get back into that beautiful commuting life and back in the office? So with that, I will open up the music and then we'll get straight into the episode. Boom.
Take off, take flight with you. We never fly, but we're flying.
Right, guys. So lockdown has been a topic that's been in the news a lot lately. I've been here in Stockholm pretty much the whole time. So it's been a different experience for me than for you guys in the UK. So let's start with you guys. What does life look like now for you on a personal basis? What's anything big changed, and how do you see the next couple of months?
For me, there hasn't been much that has changed in terms of lockdown. I'm still pretty much living my lifestyle the same as when it was announced, not going to work, being responsible, not traveling at this precise moment. I'll say my biggest change has been now I go on social distancing, like picnics or walks with my nephews. So I think that's the biggest change. But apart from that, I haven't had any visitors, gone to visit anyone. I've tried to follow the guidelines as strict as possible, even though I personally feel like I'm young, I'm healthy. I don't feel like I'm part of that high risk bracket. But for me, I just don't believe that I'm missing out on anything out there at the moment. So yeah. So
you mentioned the family time with nephews and stuff. Are you still seeing your mum during this period, or are you staying away?
So I would go and we'll like talk from outside, or I'll say, hey, let me collect. I'm going to go and see my brother and my nephews. Is there anything you want me to take down? So I'll go and collect it. But we haven't, since the lockdown period, we haven't sat in the same house and just had a conversation. We've been in the back garden.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've been in the back garden in terms of, it's quite good. I can enter our garden through the street. There's a door that allows us to enter the garden through the street. So we put out chairs and we just sat there and had a nice conversation, but we haven't really just sat down in the same house and just had a conversation.
Man, it seems like a completely different life to even 6 months ago. But so Daniel, how's it been for you on a personal basis?
It's been BAU, business as usual.
So you've been out and about? What's business as usual mean?
I'm never out and about. That's the thing. It's been BAU.
You haven't been going to the cinema? Don't you remember the episode about Daniel's Friday night cinema visits?
I love how much
Oh,
cinema.
They're all closed.
Okay, what? No, I did at home. What's what? So what's the question? What's changed or?
Yeah, just from a
personal standpoint, yeah, because
Yeah.
you've got other areas.
Nothing much. I guess I've had more time to spend at home. Usually weekends are usually busy. People coming over or me going out for functions, birthdays or celebrations, whatever it may be. So the last kind of 4 months have been very different, or 3 months have been different in that I've had more time to spend at home. One thing I did really miss was live sport, but as we know, that has resumed for the remainder of the season. So that's been something that's been a nice kind of change in my daily routine, finishing work and being able to watch some live football. But apart from that,
if I'm honest,
sorry,
I wish the football didn't come back.
Oh really?
being an Arsenal fan,
Oh,
they might as well just cancel the whole season.
So in that respect, it's that's what's changed. But the coming weeks, we'll see what happens. I'm still going to remain responsible. You know, whilst things are being lifted and eased, I'm not naive to just presume and assume that COVID has just radically disappeared. But you know, it's been nice the sense of ease, and it's been nice. You know, we had the Timbo family come over.
Yeah,
a couple weekends ago.
I was thinking Pabilo's jawline looks a bit soft, so it makes sense.
Brother, listen,
Trust me.
It's an experience.
So that was nice for the company.
Yeah.
So that's what's changed. That's what's been.
And is that slowly the last couple of weeks and probably moving forward, Daniel? Do you see that happening more often, where more people will start coming over? Maybe you'll start going to more people's places.
Yeah, I guess so. Slowly but also carefully. The last time, I went to my parents on Father's Day, which was the first time I'd been over since the whole start. So that was nice. But I've kind of enjoyed being home.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, it's just been nice to be home.
Is your mum still staying with you as well?
No, she went back home in April, day after my birthday. So it's been 2 months. 2 months now. Yeah.
Wow. And probably one last question, Daniel. Because before, would you say that you were, at least from my impression, you were quite a sociable guy, where you'd be organizing events, functions with groups, doing all of that? Is that something that you see yourself doing less moving forward?
Not really. I wouldn't say so. Only because even during this period, I've still kept in contact with friends via video calls and messages, etc. So I've kept the social element, although it's not been meetups physically. It's still been via other means. But going forward, we'll see how that plays out. You know, sometimes I'm just tired. Sometimes I'm tired and I have to go out, and I'm thinking, I really wouldn't mind being home. I really would not mind being home. But you know, it's still nice, and I guess seeing people after a long period would also be nice. Even if it's for the first few weeks before the novelty wears off, at least it'll be nice to reconnect with people.
And just to remind our listeners as well, Daniel, during this period, how much time have you been saving every day from your lack of commute?
3 hours.
Per
minimum,
day, right?
Per day, 3 hours minimum per day. Yeah.
And you were doing previously 5 days, right?
Yeah, 5 days
in the office.
So that's 15 hours in a week.
Ooh,
I'm
like a whole work day.
I'm peaking a test for the skills that I've built through this
Fabilo's question is, what have you learned in that 15 hours? What have you been spending that 15 hours doing?
Peaking a test. He can tell you.
I can tell you. I can vouch for you.
He can probably show us if he stands up and takes this video. but on that, so Pete, because in your case it's quite a unique situation, right? Because obviously you've been on paternity leave, which you spoke about in the last episode, and now you're in the process of transitioning back into work and also back to Switzerland.
Yeah.
So how have the last couple of weeks in the UK gone? And
Yes, I was actually trying to answer the question more from a standpoint of, now that things are slowly turning back to normal, what would be the key changes in my personal life? So before I answer that one, I guess what I've found in the last few weeks is I realized that a lot of this, in terms of social distancing and if you apply it or not is based on your trust with the person you're about to see. So, for example, like we went to see Daniel, and I don't necessarily know if we were applying the social distancing. I didn't really remember saying, "Okay, Daniel, stand 2 meters, and you can see Karen from here." Right. So I think so. There was that. So there was that.
I was carrying the little king.
Yeah, I know. And so I feel a couple of things. I feel one that you tend to your antennas are more raised around elderly people, your own sort of younger generation and peers. Perhaps you don't necessarily apply the distancing so much. The other thing that sort of happened, which was interesting, is that we got together as a group for Toby's surprise birthday, and when we got together, I was thinking, okay, who's gonna really apply social distancing rules? And you guys just got back together like, hey, hugging, touching,
Long time, bro.
long time. So I think as we started to sort of get the last few weeks, people started to trust more that we could actually get a bit closer together. But what I will say, what is changing moving forward is, I think, like myself and Lauren, we asked them the question, what do we want to apply when we go to that particular gathering? Do we want to apply distancing or not? And who do we trying to consider? So I think asking yourself the question around, are you going to apply distancing to a certain gathering? I think it will start to change moving forward. I think the second thing, I think just general hygiene. What I started to notice is that it's not like we didn't wash our hands before, but now it's a lot more frequent, right? So you're washing your hands as soon as you come inside. You're washing packages from sort of food shopping or packages that have been delivered. So I think that's something which has been a habit that's changed significantly as a result of coming out of COVID or lockdown.
And I guess, especially in your case with Karim, are you much, because I mean, kids are kids, right? They're going to be running around. Sounds like he was getting busy at Daniel's place as well. How do you kind of keep account of that? Because I guess if Karim's meeting up with shout out Auntie Pearl Timber, if she's meeting your mum, how do you
look? To be honest with you, it's we did the whole 14 days, let's sort of keep a certain distance, and after that time we can then sort of get closer together. My dad's traveled in from Germany, so now we're actually applying a 14-day quarantine with him, and by next week we can sort of get closer again. So you're trying to, I think it's an interesting one, because in your hearts of hearts, look, it's probably okay for him to sort of mix with my mum and my dad, but then you're trying to sort of respect some sort of distancing, and so it's you're just a lot more conscious and a lot more aware. But I'll be honest with you, I would actually say there's been a lot of, going back to the health standpoint and the hygiene, there's been a lot of benefits. I'll give you one example. We went for a walk, and after the walk, we got some ice cream. And that was the first time actually approaching the ice cream van where the guy, before he served us, was wiping down the entire area before he served us. And I was thinking to myself, that should be a norm. That should be something you should have been doing. So I think the hygiene standpoint and cleaning things down and washing your hands and cleaning packages, I think is actually going to be a good change coming out of this.
Yeah, I think just to probably from my side, I mean, everyone's aware in the news how Sweden has taken a very different approach, where it's kind of been business as usual, trying to go with the herd immunity tactic, but looking from the numbers, you could argue whether it actually worked or not. But I think for me personally, the last couple of months, I think we've spoken about in a previous episode, being tied up into one location took a while to adjust for. But now slowly the last couple of weeks, starting to socialize more with friends, go out for dinners, restaurants starting to get a bit more full. You could walk through a park here in the center of Stockholm and you won't even think COVID-19 is a thing. So it's kind of business as usual, but I think over the next couple of months, we'll see. But I have even noticed, for me, I'm someone who's quite social. I like being around people. Even when I've been invited to things, I'm kind of being like, can I really be bothered to go? Or I'll give myself a reason to maybe not go. And that's something that I don't actually I'm starting to think like that. So I need to...
But I think that's what I said. I think it's
you're used to it.
Say again?
Would you say that's because you're used to it the last couple of months?
I'm used to it. I'm used to, like, instead of spending an evening going out even on a weekday, so like dinner or something, I'm used to just chilling in the evening, watching something on TV or reading a book or something like that, or doing some more work or something else. But it's not a habit that I like that I'm
Yeah, but
slipping into.
it's interesting. But I also think there's a big trust element that plays into it. Like I feel like I trust Daniel and Melissa. I trust my mum, my dad. I trust my brother. So I think that also plays a part in terms of if I'm going to see you or not. If I don't trust you to stay clean, I'm not coming.
I think also in this case, because I'm obviously in Sweden, the people that are the highest risk that I care about are basically my parents, and they're obviously in another country. So that's why I think even when I go out, am I being extra cautious? I have hand sanitizer. I'm not wearing a mask, but not many people in Sweden are wearing masks. So yeah, let's see how it goes. But now actually on that, so now when this episode comes out, we'll be beginning the month of July, and July is typically a big holiday month, and I can easily confirm that this group, they used to in a normal year would be racking up their air miles by now. But now obviously 2020 is a different year. So what's the travel agenda for you guys? Are you looking to travel at all, domestically, internationally? What's the plan?
Olu, what's happening?
I was looking at
Dubai.
Bali. So I was looking for some. I think I sent something to Pabilo.
Oh yeah.
I sent something to Pabilo, like a video, and I was like, "Yo, Bali would be dope," but I'm not gonna try. Like, I really want to travel somewhere or go away somewhere, but for me, my difficulty is the getting to that particular country. Right? For me, I'm just getting conflicting messaging. Like they're saying, "Don't travel unless it's essential traveling." Right? 1 week. Now they're saying on the 6th of July.
It is essential.
You could make Bali essential, bro.
Get some more plants.
But on the 6th of July,
they've got some very good yoga camps in Bali, because I know you're into that nowadays.
The videos I've been seeing about Bali, I'm afraid I'm not going to come back. That's the cost of living. Like now that we proved that we can work remote, I might just stay there. Like, okay, 6 months out of the year.
Interesting.
I just want to stay there. But for me, I'm just not. The two things I'm conscious about is I don't want to follow the crowd, right? I think there was a lot of news from different airlines saying that they've seen a surge in people booking flights to travel. I had a friend of mine, she traveled to Portugal last week, and she said the experience was perfect. Like the airport wasn't packed, they maintained social distancing. The difficulty is when you're actually getting on the plane, it's very difficult to maintain social distancing when you've got someone 1 or 2 seats away from you. But now I can imagine during July period where there's a surge and more people going, the planes are going to start to get packed in again. Like Pabilo said, I don't know what the person sitting next to me or 2 seats away has been doing in terms of the last month, week, in terms of social distancing. That's putting myself at risk where I'm sharing a plane with that particular person. So what I might do is get in a car and just drive somewhere, book an Airbnb somewhere in the UK, but I don't see myself traveling that far out.
But you can't
just do what we did. We just bought about 8 seats in the airplane, and then we're good.
I thought you were going to tell me to buy the plane.
First class, then it'll be cheaper.
No, but there's no first class all the way to Barcelona. Short flight.
Last time I checked on Google Maps, Olu, I don't think it's possible to drive to Bali, big man. So you might as well book that plane for yourself.
I'm taking the risk. No, I'm totally with Olu. So all holiday plans, like big holiday plans for us, are cancelled this year. We're looking at things sort of more at the start of next year, hoping that things get better. But what we're trying to do when we get back is sort of a lot more road trips and a lot more sort of 2-3 nights at hotels, in mountains and places like that. So you got to be, a lot more local trips.
Pete, weren't we talking the other day about Miami in October? Pretty sure. Pretty sure he texted the other day saying, sure, 2 words, Miami, October. I think it was 3 words, actually. Ferrari was the third. Wow. Shout out. By the way, Lauren, if you're listening to this,
I hope you're not planning to rent out Ferrari.
Yeah, because they don't have with a Porsche.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, it makes for a great story, so it is what it is.
But so you're saying that you basically, so you've not postponed, but basically for the rest of the year, no international trips, and you're doing domestic trips.
Yeah, there's only 6 more months to go, so I think all we're looking for are we're looking for breaks and a different sort of scenery and environment. Do we actually need to fly to Bali? It's nice. It's not a must-have.
But then, Pete, when you're
Olu,
talking about
it's a must-have, bro, for you.
Yo, I think
it's
we should all plan it next year, man. Next year we should plan renting out a villa and all of us just go to Bali.
Yo,
I think that would be so cool.
yes, it's
I'm
my
down
30th
for
next
it.
year.
Yeah, because so
My
many
30th
trips are
next year.
cancelled this year. I think next year we should just plan getting a villa, going there for a week, 2 weeks. I'm down.
Good idea.
Yeah, so we're doing it. We're doing it.
Sold. I'm up for it. That could be our
Yeah,
first.
I got running by the
I'm not
shareholders.
joking, you know.
I've
I'm
got
not
running
joking.
by the shareholders, but it's a good idea.
I'm gonna start planning this. I'll send you
I'm
guys.
down.
I'm down. Cool.
Yeah, Daniel's not committing to anything, boy. Daniel,
You know me. 2 days. You know me. 2 days before, I'm like, yeah, it's booked.
crazy.
Oh, Pete, you were
Daniel, what
saying
about
some more domestic holidays.
A lot
Sorry,
more,
right?
yeah, a lot more. We
I
need
think
to
Switzerland's a nice country to do domestic holidays in.
road trips, and just things of that nature. So I think, which probably mean there will be a lot more general traffic within Europe, because people will sort of try to find. I think there's going to be some interesting opportunities within Europe to travel. Maybe some nice fancy hotels open up. Let's see. Hopefully,
But then, are you not concerned about the social distancing or what, say, hotels may adopt in terms of rules? Because whilst things are open, there might be restrictions which may limit your experience that you could have of, say, a nice hotel or fancy hotel.
yeah, it's true. I guess, but the answer to your question, the alternative is staying indoors, isn't it?
Exactly. There's definitely going to be some level of restriction, but it's better than staying at home, right? If you can travel somewhere that there's restrictions at a hotel, but you can also drive around, and somewhere like Switzerland is so beautiful. Remember when we went on that mountain walk and climb?
Yeah, right? but then that's the thing, because not just P. P likes the pool. We all like the pool. We all can swim, and and obviously Switzerland, you got those nice backdrop. But of course, if you're going to say the Cambran in Adelboden, you're not gonna be allowed in the pool. So if the weather's nice, you want a dip in the pool, and it's really hot, that does limit your experience. So essentially, you're going to be confined to the hotel or residence grounds, going for a drive, or just chilling in the hotel, just sitting down. Which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but when you want to experience something,
I need to talk to the owner and see what he can do for us.
I think also different countries have different levels of rules, right? So I don't know in Switzerland whether the swimming pools and things would be open, or maybe there's just a limited number of people that are allowed in there.
To Daniel's point, actually, exactly to that, actually, I think we're also applying UK rules across Europe. And that's probably and that might not be the case, because if, for example, in Sweden, are the hotels applying a certain social distancing?
I went to a spa 2 weeks ago. I could use the pool. I got a massage. Gym's open. Spa, sauna, everything's open.
No, yeah. So I think Daniel, to your point, I think it's
that's the point. But the point Shaw's making, Sweden in this whole lockdown were trying to, preserve the economy from taking a hit, and ultimately, whilst trying to do that, they still took a hit. So them keeping spas, restaurants, all these things, gyms open, was them trying to keep the economy going. So that's why Sweden is an anomaly.
But I do hear Switzerland.
I heard Portugal is also pretty open now as well.
Yeah, Portugal, Spain, France, they're all opening up because this is the month, July is the month where typical, a lot of people fly in for tourism. So they're opening up their borders. They're now saying if you're coming back to the UK, the 14-day quarantine doesn't apply.
But that's the problem. So they're not saying this because of, hey, it's just disappeared or we've solved it. It's, oh no, the economy's being impacted. Yeah. Tourism makes us a lot of money. So come in, fly over. It's okay. You'll be safe. Like, nah, that doesn't make me feel comfortable.
It's a recipe for disaster.
What about you?
So on that recipe for disaster, here's the chef. So basically, I was in two minds about what to do. I definitely want to come back to the UK at some stage to see my parents, because it's been a crazy period of not seeing them. But then I was like, building on what I was saying earlier, because a lot of natural tendencies I have in terms of socializing and traveling, I don't have them as much anymore. I actually don't like that part. So what I decided to do is I'm going to I booked a trip already. Probably when this podcast is out, I will be already in a different country. So I'm planning to go to Croatia for a week, travel around the islands. And the idea for me is just to psychologically prepare myself to get used to what traveling is like. So it's like an experiment trip for me. And based on how that goes, I will come back. And here in the Nordics, specifically Sweden, everyone switches off for the month of July. So people take 4 or 5 weeks holiday anyway. So I will come back, depending on how that trip goes, I will book another trip to wherever I can go, just for another week to see how it is. And then in the second half of July, first week of August, go back home for at least 2 weeks, because potentially I'll have to self-quarantine for 14 days. So that's my plan.
So Shawal, during that trip, right, the one to Croatia, what is your plans in terms of reducing the risk? So I'm sure that
you're going to get a mask.
You're not just going to fly like you normally do, right?
No, for sure not. So I've got masks. That in itself is quite a big.
Gucci mask? Or?
No. If I had it, I could show it. It's very very basic mask. So I have masks. I've stocked up on antibacterial stuff. In all the hotels that I've only booked 2 nights of the hotels. The rest I'll figure out when I'm there. I basically, all of them come with like COVID extra precautions. They're saying that they're enforcing all the rules in some way. But apart from that, I don't know what else I can do, Olu. What more can I really do?
First, I'll start with a prayer.
That's
It's the way he unmuted himself. He went like this. First, I'll start with prayer.
But that's a given. That's a daily process. Whether I'm in Croatia or wherever.
No, so there's a really good video on BBC News, which was like guidelines of what you should do when traveling. So now you got to get to the airport earlier. So before I can speak for myself, I would rock up to the airport maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes before the check-in is closed. So give yourself more time, because in case it's going to be packed, you have the social distancing line. Try and make sure that you've got all your boarding pass and everything on your phone. So touch less surfaces, just use your phone as much as possible to scan stuff. Hand sanitizer, gloves if needed, some bacterial wipes. So when you sit down on your chair, if you can wipe it prior to doing that, try to touch as little surfaces as possible. Obviously, you mentioned having a mask, wearing a mask on the plane, etc. Those were the key things that the video said. So I think that's the big things I would say you should probably follow.
Big man, you sure Bali's not part of the plan, or?
You can see I was doing bare research. Then I said, after I saw this research, I was like, oh, they interviewed someone, and like the person they interviewed was someone that was part of like Ryanair. Like I was like, obviously this person's gonna tell you that it's okay to fly. It's not from some scientist or whatever.
But I think potentially the bigger question is, wherever you decide to travel to, is the healthcare system in that country good enough that if you was to contract it, you could be treated well?
Or take a step back. Does your insurance cover you?
Yeah, so this
insurance cover you.
This I checked. So actually being based in Imagine
there's a lot of guys that don't have insurance, man.
They got mobile phone insurance, but not health insurance.
Oh man, I think people need to start looking.
Hold on.
I think word of advice for some of our listeners: if you don't have I'd say a life insurance policy, something that pays out on your death, it's definitely a good time to consider signing up to something of that nature.
So she was about to travel, and you're telling him to get life insurance.
Yeah. So with this, I actually checked. So being a Swedish working resident, I qualify for a European health insurance. I have a card, and this basically covers me. Also, on top of that, a little side plug: American Express Platinum card. You get some travel insurance into that as well, and there's a health element to it. So I've got two basic. 2
I
basis
bet you.
Sure, I'm allowed to
I
your
bet you.
question.
I bet you any money.
Sure,
If you read the terms, the T's and C's, yeah, it will say you needed to have the card before COVID, not during COVID, to be a
or
part
you need
of.
to spend a certain amount. So,
Right.
Chuan, the question
On
Sure,
behalf
I'm
of Take Flight Podcast, I'm going to do this experiment and market research, and I'll give you a debrief when we record the next episode.
Sure, the quick question you need to make sure is with the both cards that you've mentioned, and the reason why I'm asking this question is because I know I didn't do it because I had a European one. Do you know with that European card how to actually use it?
Yeah,
Like,
there's a
what
phone.
do you
There's a
phone number on the back.
There's a phone number on the back. Yeah,
Okay, just making sure.
I got bases covered, boys. I got bases
Just making
covered.
sure. Just
All right,
making sure.
so we've discussed the personal changes, travel changes. Let's jump into the professional changes.
Hey, no one asked me about personal travel.
Oh, actually, yeah. Do you know, I've got a segue for this. So Daniel, because like we know Daniel's Mr. Travel, right? Like whenever I've seen it on your Instagrams recently, Daniel, whenever it's a throwback, it's you in a different country every time. So
he's dropped that brand. He's picked up at home with DJ.
Yeah,
no, but there's always
Reinvented
an
himself.
element to it. There's always an element to it. So what's
Allow
the
me to reintroduce myself.
what's the travel agenda for curated by DJ?
You know what? I'm actually very annoyed with this whole COVID stuff because I had some
big boy.
I had some stuff lined up. I had some technology purchase that helped me. Oh no, I'm annoyed. But anyway, that aside, Anyway, we have Turkey booked for September, but it's funny because it's still going ahead. I haven't booked any hotels because I hadn't booked any hotels when I booked it. But I don't know if we'll go.
Did you book that trip?
I think you say.
No, P's internet. So.
His internet. is the worst.
Daniel, I was going to say, did you? How long? His face is frozen perfectly as well. Daniel, how long ago did you book this trip?
I booked Turkey, I think, in November or December. Long time ago. It was £2.
Whereabouts in Turkey
Istanbul.
was it? Oh wow, £2, boy.
But no, it's okay. Some context, it was using Avios, so yeah, they were so frequent flyer miles, and I used my Avios to pay £1 return for each flight. But the thing is, I would like to go. I just want to see close to the time what the stance will be. You know, I don't think Turkey's been hit too badly. It just depends on the circumstances close to the time because I doubt that BA are going to cancel the flights now that things are reopening. But then again, if they would offer me a full refund of £2, but more importantly, a full refund of the Avios points, I would probably just rebook just so that I can really enjoy it and not put ourselves at risk. But
I mean, are they flying at the moment now to?
So BA have they sent an email saying they're starting flights again, same as Emirates. They're flying from the 7th, I think, or 6th of July back to Dubai. Mm-hmm. So it'll be I see it as the flights will be going ahead. It's just more of a case on a personal decition.
The question is, will Daniel be on that flight? The flight will be going, but will Daniel be on that flight?
Yeah, that's the key question because I've still left my time off for work, and actually, if possible, if we do decide to go, we may just extend the trip because the whole time was based on other trips this year. But given that I haven't taken any annual leave for holidays this year, it could end up being a week in Istanbul if we do decide to go ahead.
And what's going to make you change? What's going to make you? What's your yes or no?
It depends if there's a second wave.
Yeah.
And just I think more of September is a good time to see whether there'll be a second wave by then, and if there's not, and we feel comfortable going, I think we should go.
Cool.
What's Melissa's take on it?
Yeah, she's the same. Really, we discussed it briefly. I think 2 days ago. And we just brought it up in conversation because we both still got the annual leave booked in. But if not, it'll be more like what P said, and hopefully the UK stance in terms of restrictions in hotels and traveling around the UK. You know, there are many nice places to visit and explore that can be done. Or alternatively, you could just do a road trip to a European city driving.
I had some friends actually that drove from London to Amsterdam and back, and it seemed to look all right. The roads were pretty empty as well. But while we're on the topic of travel, before we jump over to personal, on episode 13 of Take Flight Podcast, we did an episode called How to Travel Across the World for Less than £300 and Traveling Tips. In that episode, you'll find lots of gems when it comes to traveling, and Daniel shares a lot about his experience, and collectively as a group, we give some tips. So episode 13, How to Travel Across the World for Less than £300 and Traveling Tips. So last but not least, professional. Pete, you wanted to talk about that topic first. So what's your take? You're traveling back, right? And you've already just now started to get used to the working life.
Yeah. So the take is this. I think moving forward now, working from home is the norm, and going into the office is the exception. I think that's basically the way to, you have to ask yourself. I think that's one of the things I thank COVID for, because it has basically shone light on a very outdated system. You can be productive whilst being at home, while still spending time with family and having a level of flexibility. The idea of working between the hours of 9 to 5 doesn't work for everyone, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get less value from that individual. So working from home is now the norm. I think what you're going to see is a lot of people now investing, if they haven't done it already, investing a lot more in office equipment, and potentially even move into a new place where there's an actual office, a separate office, and then going into the office, into the workplace when they're needed and when they can actually have impact. But apart from that, I think we've got a reason for life as to why we can actually work from home.
Have you already had that conversation, P, with your manager about this new working style?
No, I haven't. But it's interesting because it's almost like a given. I think at some point I will. We're having a transition now, but at some point, I think what may happen is something along the lines of, we could say, look, I want to move to a model whereby 3 days at home, 2 days in the office. Let's say 2 years from now, I think we will start to see a lot more of that. But the idea of 5 days in the office and 9 to 5, I think it's gone.
I feel like we need to come back to P next year when he's going back to the office 5 days a week. And
yeah, that's fine.
I can only vouch for our company, because obviously our main day job is in the same organization, and you can see already in the messaging from senior leaders that this default working style has been completely flipped upside down. And some people like and want to go back to the office, which is completely fine. Others actually prefer the approach that Pavila just mentioned. So I think now they're trying to have a situation where it's just open and flexible to whoever the individual and their preference. But by the way, I don't speak on behalf of the company. This is all just my personal views based on publicly communicated information, just to clarify that. How about for you guys?
So I agree with what Pabilo said, but I've actually had that conversation with managers. So
is that why you look so relaxed?
Olu's trying to say, always trying to say, that my plan of not going into the office is going to backfire, and I'm going to have to go in.
What did you say last on the podcast about?
The thing is, just quickly, I'll just finish. We've actually, at one point we were thinking about going back at the start of July. The reason why it's August is because I've spoken to a number of colleagues and they were like, look, we're not going to. One guy's leaving now from Basel to go to Austria to work there instead, and he's closer to family. So
just did exactly
colleagues are not thinking of going back.
P, is there potential relocation still potentially on the cards or not?
What do you mean?
The conversation we had the other day about moving to a different country.
It's there.
Cool. All right, cool.
So for me,
how was the convo with your manager?
Manager was completely aligned. So I work in finance, and we've proven now that you can close your ledgers, you can manage your ledgers remotely. So there's no need for you to physically be in the office, apart from the collaboration element, knowing what other teams are doing, right?
Yeah.
So I've spoken to my manager. We've had conversations about there's probably going to be a model where teams will rotate when they're in the office. So one team might be there once a week or once every 2 weeks. You need to have some sort of touch point where people feel like part of a bigger team, part of a bigger organization, right? Also, I've spoken to some of the senior leaderships and other companies where they've talked about how can they leverage this to reduce their leases? So leases on the office space that we have, right? So traditionally, whenever there's a recession, the first thing people do is reduce headcount, right? This is giving people the opportunity to be more creative and say, instead of us reducing headcount, how do we look at which leases are about to be over? Instead of us renewing it, we can move to a smaller office and have more of a rotational employee staff coming in and out of office. And people can work from home if they're able to, right? Because there's an element of it that some people just don't live in big enough houses to have somewhere to work. They don't feel comfortable working at home. So you need to also ensure that you create a space for them. But I think the way of working is gonna completely change. That is, like P said, obviously there's tragedy with the COVID and the amount of people that have died and everything that's happened, right? But the one positive that we can take from it is force people to evolve in terms of remote working. So I see this happening. I don't see myself going back into the office this year. At least this year, I don't see myself going back to the office.
And did you have an agree? Because you mentioned that you and your manager are aligned. Did you have a discussion where, eventually, when you were to go back to the office, my preference at this time is 2-3 days from home, 2 days in the office, or it hasn't got to that stage yet?
It has to go to that stage. So our CFO sent out an email to everyone in finance and said, look, there's no need for you to be in the office until after summer, minimum, and we'll reassess after summer. And then I know from certain conversations that they're just looking at what makes sense. But I don't feel like it's going to be a problem as long as you get your work done, right?
Cool.
It shouldn't. There's no justification for, you can't tell me I've survived 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, and had a high quality of work. And now that I tell you, hey, I only want to be in the office once a week, you're going to tell me no. It doesn't make sense unless you have a valid reason.
Just really quick, I was having this conversation with Lauren, just to plug in with regards to work. What this has done also, it's allowed us to tap into the discussion around manage your energy, not your time. When we've worked from home, I think people are working more on when they know they have their best energy source versus having to work because I'm sitting at this desk and my manager can see me from his side of the room. And if I don't look like I'm busy, I'm not going to get work done. Right. The reality of it is that you're not always going to be productive from 9 till 5. There's some power hours and there's some hours where actually you're better off just actually not working, not looking in front of a laptop and doing something else. So this is why I think I can expect a lot more thought leaders in sort of the professional space to speak a lot more on why this is beneficial for people and also to focus on managing your energy versus your time.
Actually, go ahead, Dan.
So, like P, you mentioned perfect. Like thought leaders have to consider new ways of managing people, right? You figure out when your energy, when it is the right time to work. I think now when people do job specs or give people roles, you now need to evaluate what makes sense, right? Because if you give someone a role that they can do in an hour, right? As a business, it's not realistic to believe that you can live on that model where you're paying someone a full-time employee, but they're only really doing an hour, 2 hours of work, and then they're just chilling, whatever. So it's now you've got to truly review your roles and understand, okay, what makes sense in terms of hours that I know this is the amount. And if the person's more productive than X person, that's fine. But I think that's what we're going to see change is how do you define the roles for an individual working remotely versus the traditional way where you feel like this is your role, but you know the person's doing 9 to 5, so you don't really review that and assess, are they being productive, not productive, is that too much work, not too little work. I think that's going to be the real change to see how do you truly assess that, because in the UK they obviously can't record your screen or they can't record how long you spend on your computer working, right?
Yeah, but that's all.
So it's like, how do you, because I understand you're thinking about it as an employee, yeah, but think about it as a business owner. Would you want to be paying someone full-time salary when they're only truly spending an hour work a week?
Yeah, but that's the problem. We need to, and that's this is perhaps for a separate episode. Is as a manager that oversees a number of people, what are you assessing? You're assessing you should be assessing the output and the quality of the output, not how long. Because for example, if you only take your work and you give half of it off to a virtual assistant and you do things and then you provide me, I should be looking at the output, not necessarily on
what it took you to get to that point, unless I wanted to get some best practices. But this is where I think this is going to turn for the better, because too many managers are focused on, I need you to be at your desk, I need you to be sitting there, and I need you to be there from 9 till 5, and I need you to look productive.
I agree with you.
It's all perception.
It's
I agree with you,
outdated.
but I'm just saying the output, sooner or later, you got to ask yourself now, how much output? Because right now the output could be this small, right? Which you're doing in a day or in an hour. Then you as a manager or you as a business owner, I'm just thinking of, if I owned a business, right? I would now say, okay, maybe I evaluated that output as too small. And I know that that person's got more capacity, or really I should be paying this much for the bigger circle. Yeah, that's a different discussion, but yeah.
I think just building on this, there was a really good podcast recently. It was by a guy called Sam Harris, and basically he has conversations with different people. And he had a conversation specifically with a guy called Matt Mullenweg, who's basically founded tech companies, etc. And his company is fully. They have very minimal fixed office locations, and everything else is remote work. So his company's been doing it for years, and he's got a lot of success from it. And what his research has shown is that actually people who work remotely are more productive than people working in the office, at least in his smaller studies. And the reason why is, if you're in the office, even if you're not actually doing much work, you can be in a few meetings, you can ask the right questions, sound and look like you're doing stuff, but actually in the background, you may not be doing that much at all. And you can coast maybe 1, 2, 3 months and cover and make it look like you're doing something. Whereas if you're working remotely, because a lot of that is taken away, it's a lot more easier to judge it by output and what's been done. So if you're basically working, and say if no one's heard from you for 3-4 days, and no one's seen anything even over a few weeks, then I think it's easier to see who's doing more and who's not.
Yeah.
And this is something that in his studies, one of the reasons why he's transitioned into this full remote working model with his companies, with having engineers based all around the world, and because they've gone into the more output-driven discussion. And he's even said himself, building on Olu's point, this output measurement, it's not even perfect for him, but it's something that they're continuously looking at. And he doesn't have the right answer, but it's something that continues to evolve.
I think whoever figures that solution out, or figures out a model for that, if you could come up with some algorithm to say this is how much output you should expect per employee, and you can have some numbers behind that, companies will snap that up like crazy.
Yeah, let's see.
Daniel,
so Mr. 3 hours less commute every day.
Yeah.
What's it looking like over the next month for the rest of the
I
year?
hope you're spending that 3 hours working.
So anyway, I'll do aside. In terms of the next couple of months, I think the company I work for was based and founded on collaboration. So there's an undertone in the messages that I take away, that although, we've been very productive the last couple of months working from home globally, we will be returning to the office at some point. Globally, everyone's been working from home, and they're reviewing it on a case-by-case basis for office and locations based on government guidelines and what the health, what guidance has been from the health offices. But I see is us not returning anytime before September.
Okay.
Would I like to continue this flexible working? Most certainly, most definitely. I feel as though the last few months has shown many companies that this is something that can be taken forward, that going back to normal is not going to happen. This is the new normal. We'll have to adapt to this new change. And this is the new normal. And I think longer term, as Oli was saying about leases and people and companies thinking about how they can reduce their office space and maybe do hot desking, could be something seen for the future. Whilst I would like to continue this flexible working, with the amount of time I've saved in commute and money as well, it would be quite disheartening to go back to 5 days a week, if I'm honest, in the office. Because what this has shown me is that I've allowed myself to have my own spurts of productivity.
Yes.
So knowing how I work, knowing what I want to achieve in my goals, not being easily distracted by meetings that may not be so important. And that's allowed me to be more productive. I have weekly catch-ups with my manager, and sometimes I'm actually quite impressed by the amount of work I've done. The honest thing is, because I'm not, being trying to be perceived as working for a full day, and sometimes you're just not really productive. Your brain switches off.
Yeah.
But because I've taken time, refreshed my brain, gone for a quick walk around the house and come back, it's allowed me to get a lot more done.
Yep.
And I say that I would like that to continue. I don't know if it will, but it'll be something that I hope that management have seen myself, even if it's not coming from the top, that my immediate managers may allow some sort of flexible working. And anyway, when we do return, it will probably be like a blue, red, or A, B team. So a few people in for 1 week, next week off until things do return back to normal. But from the conversations we've had, I think we'll also be allowed flexibility in the short term to say whether we feel comfortable coming into the office or not based on our commutes, who we're around, if we're caring for people, in contact with elderly people. So there will be a degree of flexibility to begin with when we do return to the office.
Oh man, I mean, September's how long? We've still got a few months until.
So did I say September? Yeah, September. I think it's September or November. I've forgotten which one.
I mean, to be honest, seeing how you've enjoyed and appreciated the last extra 3 hours per day over the last few months, I think it'll be a shame if that can't continue in some capacity.
I think people will leave jobs. If
I think so too.
If certain companies mandate that people have to come in 9 to 5 for 5 days a week, I could see companies losing great talent because another company will say, you know what, we can be more flexible with that. We've proven that it still works. So I think companies need to really listen to their employees and gauge what that future is going to look like. Because
I don't think in the current climate, I don't think there'll be much shifting from one competitor to another, because I think what's happening is unemployment across the large developed countries at all-time high. But I see your point. I think people will be looking for companies that can offer that. Whether they can actually see it through and make it happen will be interesting, because it will also mean in that company, those people that are there are not going to want to leave. So then is there enough space for others potentially to come in, because they know how good they've got it, right? So, but I think we should definitely make an episode on this, on how we see the changes from a professional standpoint and business. Do you want to do one lesson?
Wrapping up, guys. What's the one lesson that we're going to take away from this lockdown period now that it's coming to a relative close for most of us?
Go on, Daniel, brother. Go on.
No. Oh, I'm just trying to think of something.
Oh.
I think my biggest takeaway is Ollie's going to Bali, like without a doubt.
So this is
Actually, I've got mine. I would say it's being nimble, being agile, because even the circumstances in this situation has taught us that things can happen on a grand scale that are beyond our control, and it's not necessarily what we see, but it's how we see things. So many people are seeing this as a very negative experience, although it's been challenging for some for a number of reasons. It could be, unfortunate passing away of family members. It could be that they're alone in their apartments and not being able to see people. But there have been many positives, or I've tried to look at the positives rather than dwell on what's not going well for me or what I've missed out or what this has impacted. Yes, there have been impacts, but there have been many positives. So even in life, the only constant in life is change. So that's what I would say, is being nimble and adaptable.
Dope. Olu, how do you follow that, big man?
Mine would be gratitude. I think, we've definitely gone through a pandemic, but this could be so much worse. I think this is the best time to ever go through a pandemic, with just the technology that we have to video call family members, still be able to connect. There's so many apps that's allowed us to connect, socialize with our friends. So I think for me, the biggest thing would be gratitude. It could be a lot worse. I think we've all been able to keep our jobs during this period of time. We're stable in terms of we're not struggling at this particular moment. For some people that might have lost their jobs, the government are trying to do a lot to help, right? So we've got to look at this as no one could have predicted this pandemic, right? So we've got to be grateful at the time that we're in, because 100, 200 years ago, if we were going through this, it could be a lot worse, right?
I think even 10 years ago, if you went through something like this with all the technology.
Yeah, the technology changes. I think FaceTime was out 10 years ago, no?
I don't know. Apple, the iPhone came out 2008.
Okay. But
So
Skype
Pete-
was
So
out.
Scott was out.
Yeah, so I was reflecting. I kind of put the two together because I actually wanted to. Not that I want to go into the topic now, but I put the two together and said, what's been the key reflection from this lockdown period? Plus, if you also add what's been happening around fighting for equality and also the protesting, and I came to the conclusion. I was like, I said to myself, one of the lessons is that we are spending. I put us all in the same bracket. 90% of our time on things that don't matter. If you think about how many people sort of take a lot of time out to focus on their appearance, trying to impress other people, forgetting the things that are sort of focusing rather than focusing on perhaps their personal finance and things that can actually help them and get them through situations like this. So I came out. I'm for me, one of the key lessons is focus on the hard things. We need to do the hard things well because the easy things are worthless in the long run. And what we've seen is that when push comes to shove, and we're challenged as a race, we're challenged as humanity, what are the things that actually count, right? And how many things that you consider to be important before this period are actually now irrelevant, right? So all the discussion around drip and kicks and all that, it doesn't carry any weight, right? So that's kind of, it might be a bit extreme, my view, to some point, but I think honestly, I think we need to spend more time on education, right? Teaching ourselves so we can actually then teach others, health, and then how do we basically make sure that our money's right between ourselves and our families, because that's ultimately what is going to count and matter in the long run.
Man, what's left for me?
Focus on what matters, man, because
I think probably the only thing that I could add to those for me personally is like beyond the health, the education, the focusing on what's important, family, etc. Probably for me, I'm coming out of this period even more appreciative of my day job that I had. I think before, not that I didn't appreciate it, but I think I took it for granted how good we have it. I think in this case, especially with the team that I'm in, the flexibility that I have, the support that they've given me, I have to appreciate that. And being in an industry specifically where through this COVID situation, we haven't been impacted as much, has made me really appreciative of that. And also the leadership within the organization, basically putting us in a position where we could be okay. So
for now.
For now. So guys,
let's just say
I think you're already saying too much, big man. Episode.
It's so funny, yeah.
I'm sitting on the tables.
It's so funny, yeah. Both of you work for the same company, yeah, but it's like two sides
opposing views.
No. I totally no.
Foundations are same.
No. So I don't want to give the wrong impression. I totally agree with what Shua was saying, because given how many people have been furloughed and actually let go, and how many people have applied for unemployment, it does make you value your jobs a lot more than you did maybe before. But I say, like I said, I think we're not out of it yet. I think companies are still making decisions on how they want to basically structure workforce. So hold on tight to your seats and make sure you keep focusing on your protection.
My stance still is that this is not going to have, the ramifications won't be visible till next year. End of year minimum next year.
From a professional setting, what do you mean?
Yeah, from a professional setting, in terms of what the books are looking like and what things make longer term strategy. Right now, it's all about mitigating it and damaging limitations for the short term. But then the conversation needs to be had about longer term, and that's where we'll start to see the effects on the economy, workplace, and jobs, etc. But that's another conversation. So that's episode 57 in the bag. We hope you've all enjoyed it. For those who stayed on till this moment anyway, but we hope you stay well. If you have any feedback for us, you can find us on Instagram at Take Flight Podcast. You can email us at takeflightpodcast@gmail.com. But that's all for now. See you in 2 weeks' time. Stay well. God bless.
By the way, one bonus news: interviews coming real soon.
Stay tuned.
Take off, take flight.